I'm looking for this big, complicated answer. Like, well, I've learned if you take this particular kind of acid with this oil and you mix it with here and then you inject yourself with it. No, 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 knock that off. Just eat less and get outside and exercise a little more. It's real simple. But we always seem to, maybe it's just a human problem, right?
Right. Yeah.
Human nature is we're looking for like this complex answer to what we think is a complex problem. But no, it's
especially
simple.
engineers.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Just do the Google search for start selling on Amazon or whatever it is. And then I'm sure it's a URL like Amazon.com, sell with us, or at that bottom of every page on Amazon. I think there's a footer that says sell with us. And it really takes nothing, literally nothing to get started with an Amazon seller. Fantastic.
And you're one of my first sets of interviews.
Awesome.
And to just give you a little bit of background, so what I've been doing over the last couple of weeks is just going through what are all the ways to make money with Amazon. And always, whenever Amazon comes up, I immediately think of you. Always. This is like,
you're too kind. Thank you.
Yeah, you should Amazon, and then George Lawrence is like right underneath there. That's their tagline. But I'm exploring all the different ways to make money using Amazon, right? Yep. And so, you have experience, I have experience doing it in many different ways. I've brought clients on doing retail. That's how we sold all of the shoes that were out of season at Shoe Thrill.
Yep.
So once again, welcome. And so I wanted to talk to you about merchant words. Well, a couple things just like catch up with you, because I remember when I met you, the first time I met you, we were with Gina and Richard. They were doing like an Amazon kind of little conference thing in this back mall room.
Yep.
I talked about automation, and you were talking about merchant words and stuff like that. And the thing that I caught on with you, because we both have dev backgrounds, is that you had you were looking at the matrix aspect of all of the stuff that was going over the wire as far as the wireless and stuff like that. And I'm like, okay, this guy, I like this guy. Yeah. So, tell me, merchant words is basically the original Amazon keyword tool, right? And anybody that knows about search engine optimization and stuff, like keywords are key. That's what they call them, keywords, I guess, to, having your stuff kind of show up. So, why did you create this keyword research tool for merchant words?
Well, like a lot of great origin stories, I was basically scratching my own itch. It came about as something I needed. And, maybe the folks listening to your podcast right now, will kind of resonate with this story. And that is, I had a great job, I had a great life by all measures, kids were, and, the whole thing is, I'm living the American dream, as they say, but I never felt like I was able to get ahead. I was always just getting by. And so to try to get ahead, what I was doing is doing side hustles anywhere I could. And one of my side hustles was selling product, moving some product on eBay and then later on Amazon. And I'm thinking, look, I'm a computer programmer. I'm a dev guy. I should be able to figure out a way to do this a little more efficiently, a little better, kind of get a leg up on other sellers and things. And then I realized if I could just figure out what people are shopping for, not necessarily what they're buying, but what they're searching for when they shop, then I can be like, you know what, I'm not gonna necessarily switch what I'm selling, but I can switch how I'm marketing what I'm selling. And if I can describe it exactly how people are searching for it, then I'll get better position in the Amazon search result pages, and I'll get better and never mind the Amazon algorithm. Even if I'm got the same positioning, just the fact that my product is described in the same way that sellers are looking for, I'm going to resonate better with, their philosophy or their personality. And, I'll get the clicks and I'll get dumped into the cart more. So that was my theory. And I figured, if I could just figure out, write some code that goes observe what's happening on Amazon, maybe I could figure this out. And, before I met you, the early versions of Merchant Words, it wasn't called Merchant Words at all. I didn't give it a name. I wasn't charging money for it. It wasn't a business. It was just my own little experiment.
Yeah.
And so I'd write some scripts, and it would run in and observe some data, and put the results of that observation in a database. And I would start looking through this database to see how people are describing their products when they search. I'm like, whoa, there's a lot of sellers out there missing out on understanding how people think.
Right.
And so, of course, I improved the way I marketed my products, and I saw a lift. I shared it with some seller buddies of mine. They saw the same lifts. They're like, dude, this is awesome. You should turn this into a business and have this be your hustle. And
Right.
so for a while it was my side hustle, and then one thing leads to another, and it became my day job. And I haven't looked back since. So that's kind of the short answer is I was scratching my own itch to try to be a better seller. And now, thankfully, I'm happy to report that we're able to help other sellers be better sellers too.
Yeah. It's one of those keys. Always like looking at what it is that you're trying to tackle.
Mm-hmm.
And it so resonates because I was a gold farmer. Well, actually, before I was a gold farmer, there's a game called Ultima Online, right?
Yeah.
And I wanted to play the game and then be able to sell my account after like 6 months. So I was waiting for my daughter to be born. Everything was set. House is good, and the family's good, all this stuff. I was kind of bored. I'm like, I'm going to play this game again, but I'm gonna play it in a way that once she's born, I'm gonna quit, and then I'm gonna sell my account for all the money that I've ever paid for playing the game, which was about like $400.
Right.
So I'm like, okay, well, if I'm gonna do that, what do people buy? And so I looked on eBay and I started like researching it. And then I found that, people buy gold. Oh, so I'll just make the gold. But then I'm like, there's no way that I can make that amount of gold in playing this amount of time. So there's something I'm missing here because they're selling a lot of gold and people are making a lot of money doing the gold. And I ended up writing a program as well to scrape auction results, right? And start to figure out, why the price of gold, when it goes up, when it goes down, stuff like that. But more importantly, who are the main sellers?
Right. Yeah.
And then I ended up learning what was actually really going on with the game, and then wrote a program to play the game 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and then take all that money the gold I was getting in the game, and then I offered it up to those main sellers, right? So obviously the people like really crunching it and killing it as far as they need volume. They need people to give them gold. Where are they getting it? And I can make a lot of it. And so I just basically reach out to them and go, hey, I can always provide you gold. And this is how much I want, per million as far as the gold goes. And then that turned into a side hustle of making about $20K a month.
Nice.
Freaking awesome.
Right.
But so I can totally get where you took that side hustle to a whole nother level and actually made it into a legit business, which is freaking awesome. And that's what I always tell everybody is like, you should have a side hustle. And then at some point that side hustle's, launch into something bigger. So now it's been almost a decade?
Almost. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, these kind of the side hustle days began right at the beginning of just after 2010. So 2011, 2012, that area. And then, when we finally formally launched it as a real company, that was around the 2012, 2013 timeframe.
Right. Yeah. Then that's about when I met you. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's fun to look back. We still have a handful of customers that have been our customers since 2013.
Okay.
Thinking, wow, there's going to be a time in a couple of years coming up where we're going to have to maybe send one of those early customers an award. Thanks for being a 10-year customer of Merchant Words.
Right. Yeah. So yeah. How has Amazon changed? How has Merchant Word changed since you created your original tool?
Well, that's and the real question is how is it continuing to change, because it always changes, right?
Right.
Nothing ever stops changing, and that actually was one of the surprising things is when you observe because you were telling me you wrote some scripts that talk to another system, right, and perform some actions on another system,
right. And they don't want you doing that.
Right. Yeah. Well, the interesting thing is Merchant Words is all about observing what's happening on Amazon. It's not like we try to influence or spam anything or make a change. There's a lot of black hat utilities that try to do things with Amazon that they don't want, and it's against the terms of service or whatnot. We don't do any of that kind of stuff. We're an observational tool, but it's amazing what you can learn by simply observing.
Right.
You always see someone like in a high-powered conference room, there's a guy silently in the corner taking notes and thinking, and you're like, wow, there's something deep going on in there, whatever that guy's thinking about.
Yeah, right.
You can learn a lot by listening. But anyway, the point is, when we first launched Merchant Words, it was just me, a single guy writing all the code. When I first launched Merchant Words, I figured that, we just have this code that observes what's going on each page, and then that's it. I can now turn my focus on data science and analyzing what we've collected, and looking at some of the other patterns that we kind of see. But what I found out is a full-time job, really, to continue to kind of mirror the changes that Amazon's making. So they're constantly tinkering, and you hear this everywhere, but they're constantly tinkering with everything.
Hmm.
This button used to go here, now that button goes there. This HTML used to look like that, and now the HTML looks like this. The UI of this page used to have that, then now the UI of this has to have that, and they're continuously changing. But what really surprised me isn't so much the rate of change and the unrelenting fact that change is always happening. It's that there's multiple changes happening simultaneously. So in this category, we observe some changes. In that category, we observe different kinds of changes. In this other category or this other market, so in the UK market, this thing might be happening. And in the other market, those things might be happening. But in the category of shoes in UK, it's mind-blowing, right? I mean, we only discover these things when we look back on them. So I've had our data science team, once we grew into a real company and hired employees and created a data science team, then the interesting experiments really began, because then I can ask the data science team to go back and take a look and say, what can we learn from these changes? What can we learn from these patterns that we're observing? And, wow, we gather deep insights. Of course, our job is to make that, just like Google says, and make that useful, right? Organize Amazon's information and make it useful for the world. And so that's what we endeavor to do as we build the different features of Merchant Words, is bring that knowledge to the rest of the world, so all of us sellers can understand what's happening. But to answer your question, what doesn't change in Amazon? Really, it's everything changes, and it changes all the time. And it's fascinating to be on the cutting edge of watching these changes happen, and then being able to get insights and learn from the patterns of change by looking back at what's been going on recently. It's fascinating stuff.
Cool. So, Merchant Words is like, when anybody ever asks me, and I already know this to be true, which is that Merchant Word is the best tool to do product research and search optimization, right? So and you talked about the data that you collect, and then you have the data science team, kind of like say, well, what does it all mean? Well, how do you collect the data in the first place?
Great question. And, maybe I shouldn't say this, or maybe I should, but, I want to be totally transparent. Merchant Words observes what's happening on Amazon, just like you can observe what's happening on Amazon. It's not like we have some super secret backdoor connection or some black hat approach or whatever. And so when you or anyone else goes to Amazon, you'll typically start typing into the search bar. And then you'll probably notice that a lot of suggestions come flying down with each keystroke. And so if you're going to search for iPhone case, you hit IPHONE, and all these different suggestions keep rolling down each time. Well, there's interesting patterns to be observed there. And then when you finally click on something, whether you type it all the way to the very end and then click enter, or whether you see something and arrow down to it and click on it, then you'll wind up on a search result page. And on that search result page, your eye will scan up and down. You'll see all kinds of different products. Some are exactly what you wanted. Some are exactly what you wanted, and that necessarily wasn't what you typed. Sometimes it's exactly what you wanted because you typed those words. But either way, you find what you want. You go to the detail page, you look around on the detail page, all kinds of content there, and then you may move on to something else or drop it in your cart. And it's those interactions that we observe and we learn from. And so to answer your question, really, it's just Amazon, and full stop, period. That's all we get our data from, is Amazon. But we look at Amazon in the same way that you look at Amazon. Now here's the difference is, we can observe hundreds and thousands and millions of these kinds of interactions that I was mentioning, what pops down on the suggestion and what comes on the search result page and whatever. And if you were to do that, it would take you days or weeks or months. And honestly, you get tired of doing it. And then what's worse, you wouldn't want to compile out, where are you going to put all that in a spreadsheet and then type in everything you learn. Now, if you really only are researching a couple of products, and if you really only have a quick question about a few quick things, then by all means, just jump into Amazon and take a look, see what you see. See what suggestions comes down, because Amazon will tell you right there, right on the suggestion list, what's up with what. One of the examples I like to use is, hey, I bet intuitively you can tell me that iPhone cases are more popular on Amazon than Igloo coolers. And you'd probably be right, but I can prove it to you by hitting just the letter I in the search bar,
Right.
and seeing iPhone cases come down. Why didn't Igloo coolers pop down? They start with I too. Well,
Right.
from that, you can conclude that iPhone cases are more popular than Igloo cooler. And sure enough, if you hit a G, IG, then now iPhone cases don't match, but Igloo coolers match, and boom, they pop up,
Right.
and so on and so on. And so you can determine what's more popular than what else is more popular yourself. However, when you can do it at scale and you can do it consistently and then learn from the patterns with a data science team, even better.
Yep. I mean, that's what I'm experiencing picking is I have an idea. I know one of the items that I pick a lot is iPhone cases
Right, sure.
and masks. Now, a lot of masks lately.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah. So, so now you've been doing it for 10 years and really I've seen the evolution of merchant words, and it's really awesome. Like the level of analysis and the data that you provide as far as making sense of everything. And we have like velocity and all this stuff. But what I'm curious is how much attention have you garnered from Amazon directly? So have they been like reaching out to you? Do you guys like have a relationship, or they're like, when are they going to buy you? You know, that kind of stuff.
Well, it's interesting that I don't think Amazon would necessarily ever be interested in buying us per se, because we've made a business of helping other sellers understand in a transparent way what's happening inside of Amazon.
Right.
And as you know, I mean, you've had a peek behind the curtain a little bit. You kind of understand the way Amazon works in their DNA. Uh, Amazon already understands, you can imagine pretty well, what's happening inside their organization.
Yeah.
And so we built a business of letting others understand what's happening inside their organization. And so really, I don't anticipate Amazon ever wanting to come purchase us.
Right.
Although what is interesting is I have had a handful of interactions with official Amazon representatives, folks from different branches of the company. They've all been friendly and pleasurable,
Yeah.
right? But the first one was the one that kind of stands out the most, and that was I was face to face with the search quality team. And first of all, I'm like, wow, that's great that there are people, full-time jobs, worried about the search quality. So awesome, good for you guys. And the other thing is, like, there's a whole team of them. That's just amazing.
Yeah.
So fantastic. And so I'm like, well, great. While we're here with this face-to-face meeting, hey, tell me how the algorithm works. How can I, blah, blah, and that, ha ha ha, right? But they said, no. The purpose that we're here and the reason we wanted to talk to you is we heard of your tool, Merchant Words, and we kind of like understand that you're suggesting keywords that sellers use. Our full-time job is to stop or prevent keyword stuffing.
Right.
We don't want people to stuff keywords. And we were concerned that perhaps your tool was assisting people or encouraging people to do keyword stuffing. And I explained, like, look, no, not only would I never suggest that, but the whole purpose of our tool is the exact opposite, is to help people understand the proper and relevant keywords that people are using when they search, so that sellers can use the opposite of keyword stuffing and use the best, most resonant, most matching what's inside people's heads when they're turning around and listing their products on Amazon. And so they kind of understood the whole goal, the whole vibe, the whole purpose of Merchant Words. And they're like, okay, we're fine with that. And carry on, because you're helping us do our job. You're doing the exact same thing that we want to do. And so very friendly. And then from time to time, Amazon will reach out and say, hey, I'm from the advertising team. Would you guys like to advertise inside of Amazon somewhere? I'm like, oh, okay, maybe. That's interesting. Never thought that you guys would want me to be advertising inside of your platform, but it makes sense. Thank you. And other reasons like that. The one that makes me the proudest, though, is an Amazon brand rep was chatting with their brand, and they were going over the products and everything. And then the brand rep called me up later and they said, hey, I was talking to my brand about, helping them optimize their positioning on Amazon, whatever. And they said that they get all of their positioning data and everything they need to help understand their brand inside of Amazon from you guys. And so what's Merchant Words? And I thought that was kind of cool. I'm like, oh, hey, we got a props from a big brand, and their brand manager inside of Amazon wanted to know more about Merchant Words. I'm like, hey, that was kind of like an attaboy, pat on the back,
That's awesome.
So that was nice.
So if you could go back to the beginning, what are like one or two things that you would, if you could go back to your old self, taking everything you know right now, and go back and go, all right, here's 3 things that I want to make sure that you keep in mind. What would those 3 things be? What would you tell yourself?
That's a great question. And for the other folks listening, I would say that the 3 things I would tell myself are the 3 things I would encourage you to pretend your future self just visited you from the future and told you today. because they're not like super specific. It's not like buy this stock or bet on this racehorse or whatever. It's more like philosophical things. Is I wish I had told myself. And so take this opportunity to imagine that what I'm going to say is from your future self telling you right now today, and that is don't wait. It's not so much start faster. It's don't wait until you feel like you've figured it everything out. Don't wait until you understand all the business creation laws. Should I start an LLC or a corporation or whatever? It's like, yeah, okay. You shouldn't necessarily make any startup mistakes. Don't purposely rush in so fast that you've made a mistake, but don't wait, because with this whole analysis paralysis, you could spend all day long reading self-help books and like business startup books and entrepreneurial books. Like, just get out there, you jump in your go-kart and jump into the race and start making some mistakes, bump into the tires and realize you'll figure it out as you go. So don't wait.
Yeah, fail faster is what I always say.
Exactly right. Fail faster. But in order to fail fast, yeah, just get out there and start failing. So don't let the fear of failing stop you. Just get out there and start failing a bunch of times, because you'll start, the old phrase, you don't fail, you either win or learn.
Right.
So really, fail fast, learn fast is what I'm saying, is get out there and start learning by doing. So don't wait. And in my case, maybe this will resonate with some other folks listening. In my case, I was like, oh, but what if? What if I launch a company that collects credit cards and now people accuse me of fraud? Or what if I get some chargebacks? Or what if I get a lawsuit? Or what if I get, all this kind of fear,
Yeah, I remember those conversations we had in the beginning. Yeah.
Yeah, right, exactly. Don't be afraid of that, because, looking back on it now, we get disputes all the time. We don't have an extraordinary number of them. We get like the 0.1% or whatever the normal industry standard is.
You're going to have them. Yeah.
Exactly right. That's just part of doing business. So don't be afraid of all of these things. Just jump out there and do it. So that's the first one. The other one is, don't be afraid to ask for the proper value in exchange for whatever it is you're providing.
Yeah.
So you're probably better than you think you are. You're probably smarter than you think you are. Your product or service or whatever it is that you're doing is probably more useful than you think it is. And so rather than say, oh, who's going to want to, look, all I've got is words in a database. How useful is that? Or when you price it, all I am are words in a database. Who's going to want to pay $10 for that, right?
Right.
Knock that off. Because if you've got something useful and valuable, your time or your service or your product or whatever it is, it deserves to be compensated for, right?
Yep.
And so don't underestimate yourself. Don't underprice yourself. Don't, whatever it is. So the two big things I would remind myself of, the future George, going back to the past George, or the future whoever you are talking to the you today, is get out there and start making mistakes, start failing. Just get out there. Just do it. Don't wait.
Yep.
Give it a try. If you fail, you haven't failed, you've learned. And if you win, congratulations, you've won. Just don't wait, get out there. And then don't be afraid to, now, don't be ridiculous. Don't say your time's worth $1 billion an hour or something.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But be fair to yourself. If you're going to provide a valuable service or a product or whatever it is you're doing to make the world a better place for whatever that means for you, then ask for fair compensation. And those are the two things I would remind myself, or wish I had told myself.
Cool. Awesome. So the other thing, and both you and I know this so well, is that because everything's changing, technology's changing. I mean, just in the last 4 years alone, I'm just amazed at how easy it is to do stuff. Like, where I used to get compensated quite well to help people put stuff together, that now that's just drag and drop. And it's like, but now there's new stuff to learn. There's, AI and data science, stuff like that. Just always new stuff to learn. So how do you keep up with all the changes, like in technology and just like all of that stuff? How do you keep up?
Great question. I think the answer there is exactly how I thought to do the thing I'm doing now in the first place. And that is, back when there was no merchant words, no keyword tool for sellers, no, how to understand the data that we're providing now. Back when there was none of that, I just thought, by keeping my eyes open, by keeping my ears open, just like listening and understanding. It's like I was saying, the guy in the back of the meeting who's just silently taking notes and thinking, something's going on in there. And that is basically just the simple answer is just paying attention, right?
Yep.
If I paid attention to the fact that I need to understand how people are searching in order to be a better seller, and I paid attention to the fact that Amazon's actually revealing to us sellers what people are searching for by simply observing what's coming down in the dropdown, right? And so those two simple facts together, is what I was just paying attention to. So really, I had the dumb luck of paying attention. Although the next step, of course, is I actually did something about it. You know that old phrase people say, somebody ought to, dot, dot, dot. I both
Right.
hate and love that phrase, somebody ought to, dot, 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 right?
Right.
Well,
Yep.
you're somebody. Sure, somebody ought to figure out how to way to help sellers understand how people are shopping for products. But I'm somebody, so I'm gonna go do that.
Right. Exactly.
So basically, it's pay attention, keep your eyes and ears open, understand what's out there, and don't let go of your grip on trying to hold on to the status quo. I'm sure that if you talk to people who were blacksmiths 100 years ago, right? Probably for the entirety of their lives, 100 years ago, being the best blacksmith you possibly could be was a great career path. But there was a time where suddenly blacksmithery, was on the way out. Just don't hold on to what if you've done what you've always done. What's that phrase? Quote: if you've done what you've always done, you're going to get what you've always gotten.
Right. Yep. Exactly.
However, so when the world is changing around you, don't fear it, don't fight it, embrace it, and change with it.
Yeah.
Because if you were a blacksmith before, you could take all those skills and do something amazing that isn't necessarily putting shoes on horses. It's using your skills to do something else. You're smart, you're creative, you're problem solver. You know how to. You were the best damn whatever it was back when we needed one of those things. Well, you can be the best damn whatever it is in the new thing that the world needs.
Yeah. So when people use your tool, what would you say are the number like 1, 2, or 3 questions that people? So here's how I want to phrase this, right? So what are the top like 2 questions people ask around once they get the tool and they're kind of looking at what are the what's the first couple questions they're going to ask, and then really what I want to know is what should they be asking?
Oh, interesting. Great question. Well, let's start with what should they be asking. What I imagine is I think it's most useful to create a tool like a hammer or a wrench that has utility in a variety of different ways. I like to think, I don't know if you follow him at all, but Alton Brown is a great chef, a celebrity TV chef, and he's got a lot of cooking shows. You may have seen him
Mm-hmm.
around. He calls some kitchen gadgets unitaskers because they can only do one thing, and he hates
Right.
them. He
Right.
prefers things that are more versatile and can do a lot of things. And I agree with that philosophy. And so when I collect some data or build a tool or have an interface or whatever, I like to think that it's flexible enough to perform many different kinds of useful tasks. And that really appeals to me. However, what I've seen is people come to a website or just maybe have a preconceived notion that they have a single problem they're trying to solve. And when I think about that, that actually makes sense because, there's that old business school quote, people don't buy a 1/4-inch drill because they need a 1/4-inch drill. People buy a 1/4-inch drill because they need a 1/4-inch hole. And
Right.
so people are always thinking about the problem they're trying to solve. And often as sellers, we don't think about the same problem in the same way. So this is kind of like the different bits and pieces that roll around inside my head and say, on the one hand, I like to build tools that are flexible and useful and can satisfy a variety of tasks. But on the other hand, I understand that people have a particular problem that they're looking to solve. And these two things kind of seem at odds. On
Right.
the one hand, I want to build a hammer that you could use to build 100 different kinds of structures. But on the other hand, people walk into this Home Depot or whatever, and they say, I need a tool that accomplishes this one task. So that's kind of the fundamental yin and yang of when I think about what customers ask us, what questions they have, how do I accomplish X? It's usually a very specific workflow. I just launched a product and I want to understand the best possible keywords for that product. Or I've had a product for ages and sales are kind of slumping and I want to do better than my competition. So what keywords are my competition winning on that I'm not winning on? So I can go understand that kind of like Venn diagram difference and then lean in on the places where I've got more opportunity to do a better job. And they've got a very specific case in mind. And what I think is the best thing to build often is let's just build the generic keyword research tool. And then I find myself realizing, you know what, customers got a specific need in mind. Let's make sure that we build our tools, the interface of our tools in such a way that you can easily satisfy that specific need. And we don't force people to kind of understand this multifaceted aspect. We don't really want, it's on the, I guess what I'm saying is the whole power and convenience, right? On the
Right.
one hand, it's very powerful to have all that flexibility, but on the other hand, that requires you to think too much. Final example before I shut up. And I know sometimes I like to ramble, but my
Okay.
final example is, here it is. We're in June. We just had a SpaceX launch that went up to the International Space Station.
Right.
Uh,
That was
hopefully,
amazing.
yeah, it was fantastic. Yeah. So in June of 2020, if you can remember, in these days, we had just for the longest time, 10 years or so, the space shuttle program had been come to an end, and we had not returned. Point is, the United States now finally launched, and it was a very exciting time. But what struck me about watching the SpaceX launch to return men to the International Space Station, the astronauts there, what really struck me about that was, if you look at and Google for it or just recall it to your memory, if you think of the interface of the cockpit in the space shuttle, it was like littered with 1,000 dials and bells and whistles and gauges and switches and toggles, and it's like overwhelmingly complex. But I'm sure once you understood how to use it, super powerful.
Right.
But that same power is wrapped into the SpaceX capsule, which is a beautiful, elegant UI. It's all touch screens. It
Mm-hmm.
looks more like you're driving a car than flying a spaceship, because it's this beautiful touchscreen UI with scrolling maps and easy to navigate buttons and things. And I'm thinking, wow, that's a perfect example of this kind of like dichotomy that I'm talking about. On the one hand, sellers or your customers or astronauts or whoever we're talking about have specific needs that they need, workflows they're going through, problems they're trying to solve. They're very specific. And on the other hand, engineers typically build interfaces that are so powerful that they can be a little bit overwhelming. And
Mm-hmm.
so that's the challenge that the SpaceX dashboard or cockpit, I think, is a great example of. Is
Right.
you can wrap all that flexibility and power into a beautiful interface that helps people not to worry about how complex it is, but gets them straight to the task they're trying to accomplish.
Yeah, that's one of the things I've really loved about Merchant Words, and it's been a little while since I've been in the interface, but it was always like, out of all the other tools I've seen in the past, where it's like, okay, what is this? Like if you go into like Google Analytics and you go into that interface, and you get lost in there like really quick. Like I don't know how to make any sense of any of this stuff. But like with Merchant Words, it's like really easy. You just type in what you need to type in as far as what product you're looking at, and then you get a really nice display of like meaningful data, and then an idea which direction to go.
Thanks. And, I'd like to say this because we're so smart in building amazing interfaces that we get it right the very first time. But no, like you were saying, fail fast, right? And so often what happens is we'll build an interface, we'll test it internally. And because we're all sellers, I still sell online, and most of the employees in Merchant Words still are online sellers, that we'll take a look at a tool we're building, or even just designing, like we design the wireframes and before we even build the tool. But at any point along the development lifecycle, we'll look at it and say, you know what, guys, this is either we can improve the usability of this, or we can improve the UI of this. And we realize that because we are ourselves customers of our own product. We are sellers, and so we use the new features all the time as we're developing. And then the corollary to that is, even though we think the internal beta testers who have been improving into the design of the UI have had our say, it's not really until we launch it that we get great feedback from our customers, and we're like, you know what, they're
Yep.
absolutely right. We tried our best to predict how customers were going to use our products, and often we do a pretty good job. But man, we really understand and learn how to best build our products, getting feedback from customers. So that's really exciting to see.
Yeah, so I really like how you said that, because at Microsoft we called it eating your own dog food, right?
Yep.
So you're utilizing what you're building and stuff like that. So it's awesome that you and everyone on your team are also sellers on Amazon. So one of the things that a lot of people ask me is like, hey, Rich, I want to start a business on Amazon. And I'm like, cool. So what would you, so if somebody came to you on the street and goes, oh, you're George Lawrence. Hey, I want to start selling stuff on Amazon. What do I do? I mean, what do you tell people?
Well, first of all, I'd say, do it, man, do it, but be careful. Be careful what you wish for. what,
Right.
what I like to think of is this, I want to make sure that everybody has their expectations set accordingly. But let's say that you want to be fly airplanes, you want to be an airline pilot. Bravo, because that's awesome, right? Whenever we fly and we get to meet the pilot or see them come on with their stuff, I think it's really exciting career, blah, blah, blah. And in the back of my mind, maybe I always thought, wouldn't it be fun to be a pilot? But if when I think about what would it take to learn how to fly airplanes, because you have to understand the aerodynamics and how the wings flap work and everything. Well, I don't necessarily have to commit a lifelong career of understanding avionics and all that thing. I could just go buy like a remote controlled airplane and start fiddling the little dials and just get a taste. Right now, that's not going to help me be an airline pilot, but it gives me a taste. And then if I love that or realize that that's kind of for me, I can keep going. I can enroll in pilot school or whatever the next step is. And then I can take it. Yeah, you go. Exactly. And then I can do a deep dive in becoming an airline pilot, and I can get more than a taste. Well, the same thing is true for Amazon. And that is, if you're curious and want to taste, anybody can create a seller account and sell something. You don't have to jump in with both feet necessarily, just tip a toe in the water. And what that might mean is you create a listing and get ready to sell a product, but you might not have that product, on your fingertips. And if somebody were to buy one of your products, you need to actually go get it from somewhere to turn around and sell it to that person. A lot of people are, buy it from here and then sell it on Amazon, arbitrage the difference, that kind of thing.
Yeah, retail arbitrage. Yep.
Yep. But you don't necessarily have to do that because you're trying to make money doing it. You're doing it because you want to experiment, dip your toe in the water, see if you like it, just get a taste. And then if that taste seems interesting to you, maybe scale up a little. And scaling up could be start arbitraging at a bigger scale, right? Sell 100 of these and then go buy 100 of them. And then, however scale up or move beyond that is for you, you might want to start white labeling products. That's where you contact a manufacturer somewhere, could be overseas, could be anywhere, and then ask that manufacturer to produce a product for you that you put your brand on, and now you develop the brand. You understand what's your brand differentiator, by listening to how people are shopping and what's important to them, and then you come up with all of these products. Now, going from zero to that might seem a little bit overwhelming, but you don't have to go from zero to 10,000 all at once. You can just scale up little by little as you understand. So my long-winded answer is I'd say jump in and get your feet wet. But if you want, dip a toe in the water first. If you like it, get both of your feet wet. And if you really like it, then don't jump in and start swimming whole, right? So you can interact, you can dial up or down your relationship as an Amazon seller to Amazon as big or as little as you want. But
Yes.
set people's expectations accordingly. If you're gonna really jump in, you're gonna need thousands of dollars to purchase and maintain inventory. You're gonna need thousands of dollars to do advertising, because it costs money to make money on Amazon. So I don't want to make this sound like sure, you can do it as a side hustle, but to really grow your business, you're gonna need to invest. But there's no reason to worry about that now, because dip your toe, see how it goes, scale up later.
I always like to think of it as like a pool, right? So on one end you have the kiddie pool, like where you can walk in, and on the other end you have the diving end, like the deep end, and then the high dive, right? So, and you haven't learned to swim yet, but you have this idea that you want to swim, and you get up to the pool, like all of it is like daunting, right? But just to, create that, retail arbitrage, probably the easiest way to get in, I think, personally. What would you say is the easiest way to get into the Amazon ecosystem?
Well, it sounds simple, but look, I could stand to lose a few pounds myself. So let me draw like a weight loss analogy. What I typically try to do is I'm looking for this big, complicated answer. Like, well, I've learned if you take this particular kind of acid with this oil and you mix it with here and then you inject yourself with it. No, knock that off. Just eat less and get outside and exercise a little more. It's real simple, but we always seem to, maybe it's just a human problem, right?
Yeah.
Human nature is we're looking for like this complex answer to what we think is a complex problem, but no,
especially engineers.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Just do the Google search for start selling on Amazon or whatever it is. And then I'm sure it's a URL like Amazon.com, sell with us, or at that bottom of every page on Amazon, I think there's a footer that says sell with us. And it really takes nothing, literally nothing to get started with an Amazon seller account, credit card and a few other bits of information from you. And then off you go. You've created an Amazon seller account. Now just follow the instructions on Amazon on how to list a product. But remember, at any step along the way, don't stress you're going to get it wrong. In fact, I hope you get it wrong, because that's how you learn. Right. You'll fix it and get it right the second time. Yeah. So if you list your first product and it's terrible, it's an awful listing and never shows up in any search results anywhere on Amazon and nobody buys a single one, that's okay. You did it. You did more than most people who are still sitting on the couch. You did something. So just go out there and tweak your listing a little bit, improve your keywords, do whatever it is. You'll get there. If you start a PPC advertising campaign, a pay-per-click advertising campaign on Amazon, you advertise against the wrong keywords and nobody's clicking on you, who cares? All you've done is you've gained a little experience. So in a way, you've learned something. There's no fail. You either win or you learn.
Yep.
So,
exactly.
So jump in there, and whatever that means for you, create an Amazon seller account. It only takes a second. There's a few documents I think you have to scan or provide, or a few pieces of information you have to fill out. It's it's been ages since I've done it, but I help people do it all the time, and I know it's very straightforward and simple. Jump in there and do it.
Cool. Well, thank you, George. So how can people get in touch with you, get more information about Merchant Words?
Great question. First of all, I love chatting with everybody because, and I hate to say this, I was and still am exactly like probably you are. There was a time where I didn't really know what selling on Amazon would be like. And then I just clicked the button, signed up, and boom, I was an Amazon seller. And I'm still learning every single day, and I still need help every single day. One of my favorite questions to ask people when I'm ever in a room or, giving a presentation in front of an audience, whatever, is I say, how many people here think they could use a little help to increase the success of their Amazon business? Whatever that means. Just get someone to answer your phone, or right, every hand goes up, every single hand goes up. And then I say, now watch this. How many people got some help from somebody along the way? And every single hand comes up, right? And then I say, now, how many people, now that you've achieved whatever level of success you've achieved, would be willing to help somebody out if somebody were to ask them for help? And it's not 100%, but like 90% of the people throw their hand up and say, like, I'd be willing to help if anybody had a question. And I'm like, okay, everyone, look at the guy next to you. You said you needed some help. The guy next to you said he'd be willing to help you. Turn and ask him a question, man. You just go do it. Yeah. So anyway, how do you get in touch with me? On every page at merchantwords.com, if you scroll down to the bottom, it'll either be a chat button or a help button, depending if our chat agents are on by. If you got a question about anything, just jump in there and ask. We've got some fantastic chat agents, customer success folks who will help you answer any questions you've got or whatever. And then they can always escalate to anybody inside of Merchant Words you need some help with. You want to fire a question at me or our data science team or anyone about anything, they can 100% help you or point you to the right direction. You want to reach me directly, George@merchantwords.com is my email address. If I'm super busy and for whatever reason don't notice your email, someone on my team will notice that it's been a while since I answered, and they'll jump in and figure it out. So if you want to reach me directly, George@merchantwords.com, just shoot me an email. I'd be thrilled to hear from you. And then if you need to get help right away, chat with our folks who are online and ready to chat at any time. It's just a box at the bottom of every Merchant Words page.
Awesome. Cool. And then if you want to get started with Merchant Words, somewhere around here, there should be a link that you can get started. And so George, I just want you to know I so appreciate you and how you have impacted, thousands of people's lives by providing a unique expression of your knowledge and making a tool that helps people be successful. And you really think about how many people you've impacted is like, it's a lot. It's a lot. And you're just one of the most genuine, nicest people I've ever met. And so I just want to say thank you for taking the time to have this chat with me. And any final parting words?
Well, Rich, it's my pleasure. Thank you so much for having me. And when I started all this, it was not because I was trying to get rich or try to make money. That is not my measure of success. All I wanted to do was help other sellers. And by that measure, I think I've accomplished some degree of success, and I'm really, really happy about that. And so thanks for those kind words. They really mean a lot to me. And that's really all I set out to do, was help other sellers. And I'm glad that we were able to accomplish that. So thanks again. And my parting shots is, you know what? Like I said, don't wait. Get out there and just start doing something. It might not be the right thing, but then you'll figure it out and you'll improve and you'll figure out what the right thing is later. Just jump in, whether it's a toe or both feet, jump in and get started. You'll probably be pleasantly surprised with it's going to be a lot easier than you think it is. So don't forget to reach out for help. Me, your friends, anybody, the whole world is willing to help people succeed. So if you need some help, just reach out and ask for it. And Rich, again, thanks, buddy. It's been so great to catch up, and it's fantastic to be able to chat about this kind of stuff.
Awesome. Thank you. Hey, thank you for watching this interview with the Beyond W2 Entrepreneur series. And if you like this content, please make sure that you hit the subscribe button, hit the bell, turn on notifications so that you get information about our next upcoming interview. And if you really like this content, really the best thing you can do is share it, and share it with somebody that might benefit from the information. And if you want more information, please go to beyondw2.com and join our community there. Otherwise, I'll see you guys in the next interview.